Hoodie is 18 years old. My dinger in it.
You're tuned in to the Awesemo NBA Strategy Show.
Now I only hear Tyler. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Tuesday, February 1st. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer, and we are brought to you by No House Advantage. 7-game slate coming today. A couple teams on a back-to-back, which is going to complicate matters a little bit for analysis, but we will certainly get a chance to talk about it again later today when Adam and I run this one back at 5 p.m. for the deeper dive. Before we get started, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, how did your Monday shake out? Did you put a bow on January?
In a variety of ways, but not in a good way. Yeah, Monday wasn't great. Ready for Tuesday.
You and me both. Wild one yesterday. Drummond just went absolute smash-tastic. Definitely didn't project him for 39 minutes in regulation or whatever the hell he was playing. I was slightly lower than that mark. I didn't think the game would go to overtime, and I would still miss Charles Bassey's minutes by like 9, but that is what I got out of it. So no big deal there. We do have a ton to talk about. It's a tricky slate to talk about because we've got the Pelicans leading this one off on a back-to-back. They had 3 guys entering yesterday's game with Q tags. Miami and Toronto are both on back-to-backs. Miami, obviously, with a lot of questionable players heading into today. Nikola Jokic is questionable heading into this one. Golden State played yesterday, which is troublesome. James Harden is questionable for today. We have a lot up in the air now. I'm not entirely sure how many different directions we can go, but I think we've got plenty of time to talk about it. You ready to start?
Sure. Yep.
Here we go. Kicking it off. Let me just see if that ownership is refreshed yet. And if it has 2 minutes ago. So New Orleans Pelicans, 1.5 point dogs in Detroit, 214 total. On the Pels side, we know nothing. They're on a back-to-back. We don't know who's playing. We did not have Brandon Ingram yesterday. He has been out for games upon games. Everybody else ended up in. I just went forward with the same rotation from yesterday. We can have a bigger discussion on whether or not we think Jackson Hayes starts at the 4, because I do not think that happens in this one in comparison to it happening yesterday against Cleveland. But on the opposite side of this one, for Detroit, things are a little bit different. Jeremy Grant off the injury report. He is back. Kelly Olynyk cleared COVID protocols. He is back. Let's start on the Pelicans side. And I think let's start with that actual talking point, since I don't think you have a stance on Brandon Ingram right now. Do you think Jackson Hayes is starting at the 4 today?
Probably not. I mean, like, I assume that a big reason yesterday was just that Cleveland has that massive lineup. It's also not like they won. If they had come out and just like won the game, I think then maybe you just see it happen again until it doesn't work. But they didn't
First thing
win.
I did in the process show was go check the box score. I was like, well, if the Pelicans won by like 10 here, then I think Jackson Hayes is starting at the 4.
Yeah. But they didn't win, and it doesn't make as much sense in this matchup. So I'm guessing you go back to Garrett Temple.
That is my assumption as well. And I think that we could possibly see some additional minutes going to Nickeil Alexander-Walker, minutes that he did not get yesterday. So if this breaks the way that we think, do you think they're going to play these guys alongside of each other at all now, since they've shown that they're willing to do it? Or do we go back to normal with Joval playing 30-something minutes and one of Willy Hernangomez or Jackson Hayes being just the straight backup?
I assume they go back to that. But again, it's always difficult. Like, when you talk about a team like the Pels, they suck. There's nothing I don't know. It doesn't really matter for obviously it matters for us, but for their chances of winning games, it doesn't really matter.
Right. That's where it gets a little bit tricky. So I went with Joval starting. Maybe we get some minutes of Jackson Hayes and Willy Hernangomez like at the 4, like whoever we want to call the 4 in this scenario. Like maybe they do change this up a little bit. I think the easier thing to say is that if Willy Hernangomez or Jackson Hayes, assuming it's Jackson Hayes, if those guys don't start at the 4, then you're not playing probably either one of them if Joval is playing, right?
Agreed.
Like if Joval's in, we just don't care unless they're starting.
Right. Like on a 7-game slate at center, if assuming Joval's in and neither of Hayes or Hernangomez is starting alongside him, then you just get back to the conversation where it would be like, oh, well, if Joval gets in foul trouble, Jackson Hayes could come through at 3,700, but that's not like it's a high probability play or something you'd really be doing that often anyway. And then, so yeah, I mean, it's just kind of the same kind of thing.
Yeah. Not only that, we don't even know if Jackson Hayes would be the guy to play behind Joval. Like all bets are off now that they were willing to start him at the 4. I got done talking about it yesterday where I was just like, look, if Joval is in, like Willy Hernangomez is a 0. And then sure enough, they start Jackson Hayes and Willy Hernangomez is a straight backup center. So who the hell knows what they're doing there? Joval to me looks great. 7,400 on FanDuel. That is a fantastic price tag for him. 8,300 on DraftKings. I don't get the sense that anybody from Detroit is slowing him down. Is Joval the best play in this game? For the Pelicans, that is.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think any of them look that great, but Joval is typically the one I prefer to get to.
We've got Josh Hart around 20% owned across both sites. Joval a little bit less. Now, obviously, that's just center only Joval versus shooting guard small forward Josh Hart. So I think those guys are probably pretty comparable. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is probably the most interesting piece here, because if this goes back to a normal rotation, he tends to get more minutes when Brandon Ingram isn't available. I think yesterday was a unique spot. We've got Nickeil Alexander-Walker projected for 1% ownership on FanDuel and 2 on DraftKings. I want to take that shot so long as Hayes isn't starting at the 4.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I was reading chat.
That's fine. The chat's way more interesting than the first game of the slate for us.
Yeah, I mean,
what are your thoughts on
about the Pelicans for like 2 minutes now?
What are your thoughts on Nickeil Alexander-Walker? Because if we assume that he becomes what he normally is with Brandon Ingram out, I think a 2% owned Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a pretty interesting GPP play.
I think he's okay. That's a couple games in a row now that we haven't really seen playing time for him. That was a trend previously too, where he just wasn't playing a lot because he's not very good. Like he has a ceiling, but you're kind of paying for it at this point.
Well, the question comes down to, is it like the game on January 24th or the 28th where he plays 34 minutes? Or is it like the game on the 29th or yesterday where he plays 20? Like if he plays 32, then his price isn't a problem. He's the best play on the slate.
I think a lot has to do with how he's playing, and typically he's not going to play well.
How do you feel about projecting his minutes for today? Because 2% owned feels wrong to me.
If Ingram's out, mid-20s.
Okay. I might be a little high at 28 right now. I mean, it's basically like who wins the coin flip between Garrett Temple and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. You're going to say that that's more likely to be Temple than Walker?
It's probably about even. It depends how the game's going. It depends how Alexander Walker's playing. I think there's a lot of times that they would just prefer Temple be in there to catch and shoot threes than Alexander Walker being there to chuck up and miss shots for an entire stint.
Fair. It's one we got to keep an eye on. We need to get additional information as the day goes by. I do like Herbert Jones. I think he's lacking in ownership right now as well. But we need to find out if Brandon Ingram is going to play. And I assume he's just going to be questionable up until lock. So I've got nothing else to add for the Pelicans, and I'm quite confident you don't either. So let's just go directly to the Detroit Pistons, who are now integrating Jeremy Grant once again so that they can trade him in 9 days. Highest owned guy in this game is Cade Cunningham on FanDuel, 7,800. That's 11% owned. Nobody else is in double digits. I like Cade for 8,100 on DraftKings, but Grant being back sort of makes this team look not good anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you're just adding another guy into the rotation that is going to play minutes. He's also going to take up usage, which obviously is a problem. So yeah, I mean, Cunningham, if you get to him in some tournament lineups, is fine, but at 8,100 on DraftKings, he's not that appealing anyway. I don't think you can really get to Grant at 7,300. Bay is relatively expensive. I don't see a lot here. I mean, the front court becomes a mess again with Olynyk back, where chances are you're going to get, at least to some extent, a 3-man center rotation. Like Olynyk's a good point per minute guy, but I have a hard time thinking he's playing a lot of minutes here, particularly with Grant back as well. So it's really difficult for me to get to anything.
Yeah, it's other than Cunningham, like everybody else was a single digit sim type guy. I don't really know anybody on here that I would want to take a shot at. I don't totally know how they're going to shake out this 4-5 rotation, but I don't get the sense that anybody's going to come out of it looking like an amazing option. The problem for this game is that it's like, it should be competitive, but I still don't think it's any sort of like good DFS game. Everybody on the Pistons outside of Cunningham, Bay, and Grant are probably all just going to play like 24 minutes and all look pedestrian.
Right. Like Olynyk could certainly get there in 24 minutes.
Yeah.
But I think he's priced about where he should be.
Same. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a day where like Kelly Olynyk just starts playing. Well, I think they would want him to play like 30 minutes because I think that sort of helps the offense the most for Cade. But unless you know that's going to happen, I think it's hard to do anything really with 5,200 here. I don't have anything else I want to say here about Pelicans or Pistons. Unfortunately, this game matters because it's a 7-game slate. And unfortunately, this game looks like it stinks.
Yep.
That's it. All right. Schedule for the rest of the day. We have the NFL First Look at 11 a.m. We've got PGA Strategy Show coming up at 1 p.m. We've got the NHL Strategy Show at 2, Yahoo NBA Show at 3, a No House Advantage Deeper Dive Show at 3:30. Adam and I are back to do it again at 5 o'clock for the NBA Deeper Dive. And we will then lead in to a 90-minute NBA Live before lock. NBA projections are free. NHL projections are free, and PGA rankings are free. Lots of good free content going on today, kicking off the month of February. Brent Jones wants to know if you've moved to another room. Where's your Sean Taylor jersey? Now, you've just moved to a hotel in New York for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I would like to get back to the Sean Taylor jersey.
I mean, really? Like,
Yeah.
I know what you're saying, but I don't get the sense that your level of comfort right now is a negative. Like,
I mean, I would much rather be stuck in my apartment.
is it because you don't have all of your cologne with you?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking. Your Washington Wizards are slight underdogs against the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks. 11.5 point dogs, 223 total. But the big piece in this one, Bradley Beal is out for this one and the next one, which means all sorts of ownership coming into a double-digit underdog. Kuzma, 20% owned. Dinwiddie, 30% owned. KCP on DraftKings, 12. Kispert, 12 across both. Avdia as the chalk, 30% across both sites. I'd like to have a conversation there. Trez is getting 13% ownership on FanDuel. That scares the shit out of me. Bryant's getting 15% ownership on DraftKings. That also scares the shit out of me. Where do you want to start with Washington, and why is it Spencer Dinwiddie?
Because he's a totally different player when Beal's out and just has been really, really good. 5,900 for him, assuming he's going to play 34, 35 minutes. He produces at a much higher rate without Beal. Makes him look really, really good.
Yeah, I love Dinwiddie as well. Came out as my number one contender on FanDuel or DraftKings. Videos have not been posted yet, so spoiler alert, those are the number one contenders for today. What else do you want to get to here? The ownership on Denny stands out to me a little bit. I mean, 3,800 makes some sense. Do you expect a big time minutes bump for Denny here?
It's possible. Like it's scary with this team because they have so many bodies that they can use. But Denny is typically kind of the first guy up to step in and play more minutes. They like what he can do defensively. He moves the ball well offensively as well. So he's my first guess at who steps up and plays more.
Okay. I just don't trust it. Like, is it Kispert that gets more minutes? Does Neto just stop being on the bench and get additional run? Do they dust off Aaron Holiday? Does Bertans just enter the lineup? Like, they have 100 different things they could do at different positions and move people up and down that I get a little bit nervous immediately wanting to just grab one individual guy. I like the prices there, but what else can we do with Washington? I think Kuzma looks really good. I'm happy to take some shots at Corey Kispert. What else stands out as an improvement because Beal is out?
I mean, Kuzma's usage rate should increase. We saw those monster games when Beal was out last time. Certainly possible again. Now he's not going to get center minutes like he was last time, but he still rebounds at a pretty high rate, and the usage rate should go up. The center rotation is interesting as well because it sounds like they're definitely running a two-man center rotation. Thomas Bryant is the starter for now, and so I assume Harrell's going to be the backup. Wes Unseld Jr. didn't really commit to Daniel Gafford not being in the rotation so much as he committed to Bryant starting and them only using two centers, which I think kind of means Daniel Gafford's not in the rotation. So it makes either of Bryant or Harrell reasonable options as well. KCP at 4,200 looks okay. Kispert's a reasonable value. But I think as far as the guys I'm getting to first, it's Dinwiddie, Kuzma, and then probably Avdia if he's starting.
All right. In the 9 games that Beal has not played, that Denny Avdia has played, he's averaged 23 minutes in those games. That's interesting to me. I'm going to see if that's any different when Denny starts, but he's only started one game that Beal hasn't played, and he played 31 minutes in that one. KCP did not play in that game. It looks like they were missing a couple other guys because Craig Sword and Jordan Goodwin also played. So I gave Denny 26 minutes. I'm not so sure that I want to get too crazy here because I think that 5 other guys can play. I'm assuming Gafford is on ice until the trade deadline and that one of Thomas Bryant or Montrezl Harrell are on their way out. I think that Gafford is sitting so that they could actually play the 2 guys that they don't care if they keep.
I think that's possible. Like that makes as much sense as any of it because I still have no idea why Gafford's losing minutes to either of these guys.
Yeah, I think this is like get some rest, enjoy yourself. We need to ship out one of these guys so that you can keep playing. And like, it's not even that. They've got they're a 4th center. Like Rui is also playing center minutes potentially, which is another thing that's going on. We have Davis Bertans not really a part of this rotation. I don't know if he gets back in here. Are you going to have a lot of Washington?
I mean, it looks that way right now. Like Dinwiddie looks like a priority, and then there's just so many guys here that look good. Whether it's Kuzma, Avdia, Bryant / Harrell, KCP, I think I'm going to get a good amount of Washington, which doesn't make me feel that good.
No, not at all, because they are double-digit dogs with a not ideal total. Nothing too crazy for this slate, but yeah, whether it's Kuzma, Dinwiddie, KCP, Kispert, Denny. Like if Thomas Bryant starts 35, let's talk through that. $3,500 Thomas Bryant, if he is in the starting lineup, what is your expectation in minutes? 20?
Yeah, 20, 22.
Do you like that if he's 15% owned?
It's fine. I mean, I'm not like going crazy to get more of it, but I get why the ownership would be there. He played 20 minutes last game. He's, a fantasy point per minute guy. He's 3,500. The only, if he had power forward eligibility, he'd be a really good play. With just center, obviously the opportunity cost is high, but there is still a ceiling, especially if he plays well and just gets 24 minutes.
It's going to be really hard to nail down Washington. Is the moral of this story, pay very close attention to the starting lineup, prioritize whoever those guys happen to be, even though we know 4 of them basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think the big question, like if Kispert starts in place of Avdia, I think you just assume Kispert's playing more minutes than Avdia most of the time, which would
Yeah.
make Kispert, look a little bit better.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've got a little bit more interest in Kispert just in general. $500 cheaper. Obviously, not a great per minute fantasy guy, but shooting guard, small forward really helps. And there's not a ton of value out there yet. So I've got my eye on Kispert. And then we go to Milwaukee, a significantly easier team to talk about because we're probably not digging out of the bottom of the barrel for the Milwaukee Bucks in this one. No George Hill, no Brook Lopez. Giannis, 23% owned on FanDuel. No one on DraftKings is higher than 8.7% owned, but Holiday, Portis, and Giannis are all about 20% owned on FanDuel. Middleton not really pulling all that much love. I don't really anticipate rostering anybody outside of the Giannis, Middleton, Holiday, Portis group. Who is the best Milwaukee Buck for you today?
I think it's either Giannis or Portis.
Yeah.
Giannis, I mean, obviously is the highest projected by a lot, but he's also 12K, which is just pretty much always difficult to get to. But if you can, like he looks really good. But 6,300 on Portis, I think is pretty appealing. The downside is that he's center only on DraftKings, which increases the opportunity cost. But you're still likely to get 30 minutes or so from him. He's like a 1.15 to 1.2 DraftKings point per minute guy, and certainly not a bad matchup against Washington.
Yeah, I like him on FanDuel, power forward and center eligible there, 6K. But
Also,
similarly, go ahead.
No, I'll say also one thing to keep in mind, and again, you don't want to get bogged down too much in individual defense or anything like that. But Thomas Bryant taking Daniel Gafford's minutes makes the Washington front court an absolute joke.
Yeah, they Milwaukee should carve them up. Not going to be great from a defensive standpoint here. That's for sure. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm going to get to Giannis and Holiday and Portis on FanDuel because those prices look great. Like, even for Drew Holiday, he's just so much harder to get to on DraftKings because he's just point guard. Just adding shooting guard there just, bumps him up an extra 4 or 5%. That makes it a little bit easier. Middleton's just a guy now, 1.1 fantasy points per minute, nothing too interesting. Giannis will be impacted by the status of Nikola Jokic. I'm assuming Jokic plays because Jokic just seems to always play. But if he happens to be out, paying up for Giannis seems a little bit easier, that you don't have to worry about like just the coin flip matchup of him versus Jokic. Anything else for Milwaukee?
DiVincenzo.
Yeah, go ahead.
DiVincenzo dart throws at 3,700, hoping he falls into like 24 minutes, but not any sort of priority.
No, I think they just take George Hill's minutes, throw them at any combination of Rodney Hood and Jordan Nwora, and it ends up not mattering at all. All right. Well, good luck talking about this one. Miami Heat, 2-point dogs in Toronto, 211 total. We did not have Jimmy Butler or PJ Tucker yesterday. I put them both in. I assume they're with the team. And if they're with the team and they traveled to Boston, I don't think they're going back to Miami. I think they're just going to go to Toronto and play today. I don't know if it matters to anybody that it's an international game, but to me, it doesn't. So I put these guys in. Do you have any sort of lean on Butler? The PJ Tucker a little bit less important in this one.
No, I mean, I have no idea.
Okay. Do you have them? Are you anticipating in for right now?
I've been for right now. Yeah.
Okay. If these guys are all in, I don't find Miami all that interesting. The only guys that you can really roster, in my opinion, would be Butler, Bam, and Tyler Hero. Although 5K Gabe Vincent seems okay enough on FanDuel. Do you see anybody that stands out for Miami here against Toronto?
If Butler's in, I think he looks fine. Adebayo probably looks the best to me. 8K is still reasonable at center. But again, we've already talked about Thomas Bryant as value. You have Joval. We're assuming you have Portis. So it's not like you should be getting like massive amounts of Bam, but he does look good. Tyler Hero, one way or the other, has a nice ceiling. The issue is that he's Tyler Hero and he can miss a lot of shots as well. But what do you say?
He sucks.
I mean, he started out this year like he was going to be better, and then still sucks. But yeah, I mean, any of those three guys I think are fine.
Okay. Yeah, those are the guys that I want. I probably don't want anything else there. If we lose Butler again, I assume we're just going right back to playing a Tyler Hero that was terrible yesterday. We're playing Bam just like we did yesterday. And then Max Strus / Caleb Martin probably look a little bit better.
Yeah, if Butler's out, all of those guys look better. Hero's usage rate goes up. Adebayo's average production goes up. You're getting more minutes for some combination of Strus, Martin, and Vincent.
Yeah. Tough team to talk about today. On the Raptors side, pretty easy to talk about. They're just the same thing over and over and over again. Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, and Gary Trent are likely to play 36 plus minutes. We're getting the ownership into Siakam, VanVleet, and Trent on DraftKings, Siakam, VanVleet, and Barnes on FanDuel. I think the moral of the story, though, is that Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet on FanDuel and DraftKings both look like the two best options. And that $5,800 price tag on Gary Trent is pretty appealing on DK.
Yeah, it's just more of the same. The matchup isn't appealing. Miami's a slow-paced team. They defend well. This game only has like a 211 total, but VanVleet at 8,700 still looks good. Like, he's going to play 40 minutes or so. Has a very high ceiling. Siakam's price tag dropped like $600 overnight. Makes him look decent. I think those are the two I get to first here. If you get to some, Barnes, Anunoby, Trent, just as lower owned contrarian plays that are still going to play 36 minutes, that's fine. But VanVleet and then Siakam are the top two for me.
It's just one of those things where like you kind of have to have at least one Toronto guy and everything. Someone is going to play 40 minutes and get extra stats, and it's hard to not want to go the other direction. Are you going to look at Boucher and Achua at all? Because I don't get the sense that I am with any sort of volume other than like random couple lineups.
Yeah, that's how I see it as well. Like I think basically Kelly Olynyk is the same play as Boucher, but in a better spot. So I think I would, like, if I'm getting to one of those like high point per minute, hope he plays 5 minutes more than I'm expecting, dart throw type guys at that price point, I think I'd go Olynyk first.
All righty. Do we have anything else that we really need to talk about here? I guess fingers crossed that like somebody sits, but otherwise I don't think it matters.
Yeah, and we know what to do there too. If somebody sits, Achua starts, Boucher plays more, everybody else still plays 100 minutes.
82 games is a lot. Not too many players can be consistent the whole season. Yeah, Tyler Hero's been consistent over 3 straight years of being consistently not a very good NBA player. So that consistency is fantastic to see. All righty. Well, let's talk a little bit about our presenting sponsor. That would be No House Advantage. And this is more peer-to-peer. You're trying to pick over-unders on player props, but you're ranking them on a confidence interval. So your favorite's going to be worth 10 points. Second favorite would be worth 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Down the line, you can get a $25 deposit bonus when you use the promo code Awesemo. We have No House Advantage projections and optimal lineups already generated at awesemo.com to help you take down some of the big prizes. You can download the app in the App Store, or you can go to nohouseadvantage.com to play. How about I hit you with the old, they've got Daniel Gafford and Thomas Bryant on here. You can sneak into some sort of weird prop if you really wanted to. I'm trying to find a spot where somebody might be listed a little bit incorrectly, like Jordan Poole. Ooh, over under 17.5 points. We'll put a pin in that one until we get to the Golden State stuff. I'm going to hit you with one or two from the games we've already talked about. How does 14.5 points for an over under for Cade Cunningham sound to you?
14.5 actual points?
Yes, actual points.
I like the over.
So do I. I've got him at 18.1. So that works for me. Yes, D-Mac. Didn't say that he will never be good, but yes, he sucks. It's not an opinion. Like the information is out there. It's not my opinion that Tyler Hero sucks. He just sucks. Doesn't mean he can't not be better in the future. All right, one more player prop for you here. All right, we've got no Bradley Beal, so let's actually see what the Spencer Dinwiddie props look like. Well, we found our number 10. This is the 10-pointer. Adam, how do you feel about Spencer Dinwiddie's points prop coming in at a crisp 11.5?
I think that's a little bit low.
3.5 rebounds and 4.5 assists. I have it at 8.3 BT dubs. So yes, Spencer Dinwiddie, probably the guy you want to go to. Kyle Kuzma, by the way, 13.5 points. I think that you need to go to most of the Wizards for No House Advantage today. That's ridiculous. I like the over 11.5 points for Spencer Dinwiddie if Beal's in.
Yeah, like that would be a pretty good line if Beal was in.
Yeah.
That's
And
like a
then,
first half line with Beal out.
yeah, Kuzma, 6.5 rebounds for Kuzma. I'll certainly over 19.5 points plus rebounds for Kyle Kuzma is a funny one for today.
Yeah,
I have that number right now at 28.5.
Yeah, like Kuzma, that should probably be his points line.
It really should. It really should. So make sure you're checking out No House Advantage. A lot of benefits here for you guys today. We move it on to the Orlando Magic. Yeah, Doug says that's a first half line.
Yeah.
The Magic are 10.5-point dogs in Chicago. Revenge narrative alert for Wendell Carter Jr. and Nikola Vucevic. So on the Orlando side, it's business as usual. And unfortunately, we're playing a lot of the Orlando Magic today. Franz Wagner, Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony, and Wendell Carter Jr. are all 15 to 20% owned across both sites. I think Gary Harris and Mo Bamba are also both viable today. Are you going to be getting to a lot of Orlando?
I mean, I would like to say no, but I like the pricing, so probably. Cole Anthony at 6,500, I'll fall right back into that. Like, he's going to play 32 to 34 minutes. Even when he's been playing poorly, he's a fantasy point per minute guy. When his shot's falling, he's well over a fantasy point per minute. Carter at 6,200 looks fine. Suggs looks fine. Wagner and Bamba are both reasonably priced as well. I think Anthony's number one, but all of the other starters look pretty good.
Yeah, I know. That's I'm having a hard time wanting to get away from this Orlando Magic team, but 6,500 for Anthony on DK works. Suggs at 5,700, that works. Franz Wagner, 5,600. Yes. Wendell Carter Jr. having power forward eligibility. Yes. I like it all. I really do. Other than, like, I don't get the sense that I would get to too much Okiki, Ross, or Mo Wagner. And Terrence Ross is 5% owned on today's slate. Congratulations. 5% of the people played the rake. I don't want to like it, but they're all priced in a pretty decent way.
Yeah, I mean,
who do you think the best Orlando Magic play here is? Cole Anthony or Wendell Carter Jr.?
Cole Anthony.
Okay. Wendell Carter Jr.
not by a
20,
lot.
27% owned right now, but I think totally warranted at 6,200.
Yeah, I don't think he's the best play by like a wide margin, but
sure.
I'd give him the slight edge over Carter.
I do too as well. What happens in situations like this where we have Wendell Carter revenge narrative against the Bulls, but then we also have Nikola Vucevic revenge narrative against Orlando, same trade? Do they offset each other or do they both get to do it?
Well, I think that the one that got shipped to Orlando is more likely to be vengeful, and the one that is now on the Bulls probably doesn't care.
If I'm being honest,
the weather
I'd rather
is
be in
worse
Orlando.
in Chicago than Orlando,
I'd rather
so
be in Orlando.
It depends what Wendell Carter Jr. really values, I guess.
You know how much you and I love the state of Florida. I would much rather be in Orlando than I would be in Chicago. Honestly, as best I can tell, there's nothing good in Chicago.
Have you ever been to Chicago?
No, not once. Not once. It would be, maybe I should get there one day, considering that is where this entire company is based. But no, I have never been to Chicago.
I've only been once.
Okay, yeah. Apparently we're not invited.
Yeah,
Anything else?
I went to Chicago for a work trip before we came to Awesemo, and we're based in Chicago.
Oh, gotcha. If only Chicago would break off and float into Lake Michigan, everything would be better. Right? Anyway, yeah. Everybody knows just enjoying watching Florida.
I'm just enjoying seeing how long this is going to go on in chat, where this guy wants to know why he can't set his lineup at 10:30 in the morning and leave it.
I mean, he can. I just assume he's not going to win whether he sets it now or at 6:30 tonight. So
probably also true.
On the Chicago Bulls side of this one, they are at their normal full strength right now, which means no Lonzo, no Alex Baker, no I can't even remember who else is out. Patrick Williams, and who's the lob threat that was on Portland? I can't even remember his name. It doesn't matter. He's out.
Whiteside.
Nailed it. Desunmu, DeRozan, Levine, Vooch, Kobe White, all 10 to 20% owned on FanDuel. Not the same sort of ownership coming into Dosunmu on DraftKings. A little bit lighter on Levine and Kobe White, but Levine continues to be underpriced on FanDuel. What are you doing with Chicago here in a great spot against Orlando?
Yeah, pretty good spot and a lot of minutes for the starters, which is nice. Vooch looks fine. DeRozan 9,100 looks pretty good. I think Levine's probably my preferred option just because on DraftKings for one, he's the cheapest of the three, but he also has shooting guard, small forward eligibility, whereas DeRozan's power forward only, Vooch is center only. So I think a slight edge to Levine there, but all three of those guys look pretty good. If you get to some Dosunmu, I think that's okay. Never my preferred option, but he's only 5,700. He's likely to play mid 30s in minutes. Kobe White 6,100, kind of the same sort of thing. But I think it's a situation where none of them at their prices on DraftKings, I don't think any of them necessarily stand out as like top options, but I just like getting to a decent amount of them because it is a good matchup, and it's pretty likely that one of those guys just has an above average game.
Surprising to see DeRozan doubling up Levine right now in ownership, because I would rather just get to Levine pretty easily. I mean, I think they're basically equal relative to salary, and that's before even factoring in the obvious positional benefit for Zach LaVine. How good is the revenge narrative for Vooch at 9,300? Seems to be very good at 8,700 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I think he looks good. I mean, the issue is just we've already talked about so many centers that are cheaper and also have high ceilings, but I mean, he can pretty easily go for 50 against Orlando.
He certainly could. Probably wants to as well. Are you getting to anything like Javonte Green or Troy Brown?
Probably not. I mean, I know Green had a good game last time out, played 23 minutes. Like, I assume there's going to be better stuff that opens up. Donovan
Garbarino says, I want to smoke pot with Josh and watch Star Wars. I've never seen Star Wars in my life, so not going to happen. Sorry. Gonna have to bring a different movie. You a Star Wars guy?
No, never seen it.
Yeah, no clue. I could do. I get like I understand, Luke, I'm your father, and I know what like Chewbacca and shit is, but I don't know anything about the movies.
Yeah, haven't seen Star Trek. Haven't seen Star Wars.
Same, both ways. Not for me. I guess I don't like stars.
I don't like sci-fi type stuff unless somebody forces me to. Like, if somebody forces me to watch it, typically I'll enjoy it, but like, I don't know, I have a really hard time getting myself to watch anything. I haven't seen The Matrix, I haven't seen Star Wars, I haven't seen Star Trek, I haven't seen Lord of the Rings. Like, just anything in that broad genre, I just don't watch.
You lost me on everything except for The Matrix.
What?
Like, I haven't seen those other things too, but you should. The Matrix itself is dope. That's not
like, sure, I've heard it's great. I've tried to watch it like 5 times and just
hard to want to catch up on it now, but like the visual was just so sick at the time. Now it's just watch John Wick instead. Now it's just as cool.
Yeah, haven't seen that either.
You got to watch.
I mean, part of this too is also that I just don't watch movies.
Also true. Also trick. Also trick. I was reading John Wick and also saying also true at the same time. Man. Oh, Jordan, Lord of the Rings is goated. Ugh. 9 hours of a gaggle of dudes just walking through the forest to nothing at all. Throw jewelry in a bucket or wherever the hell it ends up. Oh my God, what a bore. That first movie put me immediately to sleep. I can't imagine watching the other two dumpster fires. Oh my God, it's the same movie over and over. Boring trees, boring people. Terrible. Dosunmu or Patty Mills on FanDuel from King Jacob, member of Team Awesemo for 2 months. The answer to me is neither.
I mean, I'll let you answer FanDuel because I mean
it's definitely not Patty Mills at 5,900 today. The answer is Dosunmu, but neither one of them are particularly great plays. Oh God, Lord of the Rings is like bumming me out now. I feel like I'm talking slower because of how slow that damn movie is. Just bringing it up makes it worse. Kit Cloud Kicker says, I didn't watch Lord of the Rings. It's 73 hours long and there's no black people in it. Apologies for that one. Apologies. All right. I don't have anything else for Chicago. Do you?
No.
To the Denver Nuggets. They are 2.5-point underdogs in Minnesota. 2.5-point dogs, as I mentioned. Nikola Jokic is questionable for this one. He is not a guy that misses a lot of time unless he jacks up a Morris twin. But for right now, questionable with right toe soreness. I have him in, obviously. Not all that owned on DraftKings as a 12-5 center. He is a little bit owned as an 11-3 center on Denver. I assume you don't have anything all that interesting other than the fact that this is a fantastic spot to play Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, it's a good spot, but again, it's just like it's the same issue we've been running into with Jokic for a while now. He projects as the highest scorer on the slate pretty much anytime he plays, but he's at a premium position. He's priced all the way up. It just obviously he's capable of being optimal because he can just go get 80 fantasy points and you're going to need him. But it's still just really tough to prioritize him in the sense of getting him in like a massive amount of lineups when you can play Bobby Portis plus Bam Adebayo for almost the same price, combined.
Yeah. How much more interesting does Jokic get by default if Giannis is just simply like not in this slate? Or vice versa. Say that the opposite way. How much more interesting is Giannis on this slate if Jokic just happens to be out? Where you change up the highest guy that you can pay for.
Yeah, I think Giannis becomes more interesting just because he has power forward eligibility. You still have the 12K price tag. That's a problem, but he looks a lot better, I think, if Jokic is out.
Yeah. Because for those two, those are the only guys that are really competing with each other. Like, not only do you, if you're playing one of those two guys, not only do you want them to be correct at their salary, but they also have to beat the other guy. The chances of a Jokic plus Giannis lineup being the nuts tonight is really, really difficult to put together. So you're actually asking a question twice of how good do I think Jokic and Giannis can be? And what are I got to win a coin flip just between the two. That's where it gets kind of tricky. Because I'm not even confident you can make a lineup with Jokic and Giannis that could ever be a really good lineup on a day like today.
Yeah, the way value stands right now, at least, I don't think so.
Right. So if Jokic is in, how do you feel about Will Barton at 5,800, just shooting guard eligibility?
I think he's okay. I don't really feel strongly one way or the other. You're probably getting 34 minutes or so. He's like a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy. Just kind of there.
Gordon, Morris, Jeff Green. Is there anything else here if Jokic is in?
I don't really think so. It's just kind of like dart throw type guys that don't look that good. The team obviously gets a lot more interesting if Jokic were to sit, but assuming he's in, if you get to a little bit of Barton, Gordon, Morris, Green, any of those guys, there's nothing wrong with that, but it should just be sort of the last guy into your lineup to save some ownership.
And then all hell breaks loose if Nikola Jokic is out. Who is the immediate benefit for Denver? Keep in mind, DeMarcus Cousins also questionable.
Yeah, I mean, if he's out, Barton looks a lot better. Morris looks better. If Cousins...
We're jamming JaMychal Green, right?
What?
If Jokic is out. We got JaMychal Green playing the 13 backup center minutes this last game out with no Cousins with the injury.
Okay, yeah, I was assuming Cousins plays.
Right. Either we're jamming the starting center for Denver if Jokic happens to be out, right?
If it's Cousins, if it's Green, I still don't really know.
Interesting. Okay. Does he have a dumb salary? Are you looking at that?
No, he just could not play that a ton of minutes. You're playing him at 3K. He's power forward eligible too, which is really nice. But yeah, we've just seen games already where Green gets to start and then plays not enough minutes to actually be a good play.
Could also be Zeke Naji, honestly,
right.
3,100 power forward center. We're going to get some sort of very, very, very good value piece for Denver by default if Jokic is out. It just kind of has to happen. There's just going to be minutes going to people at 3K that don't exist right now. Who else gets the major benefit, though? Is Barton your next guy up, or is it Aaron Gordon?
Barton.
Okay. Do you expect to get a lot of Denver if Jokic happens to be out?
Yeah, just because Barton will look a lot better. Morris's production goes up. You'll get one of Cousins, Najee, JaMychal Green that are starting. Gordon looks a little bit better. I mean, yeah, you're just talking about so much, not only the minutes that are available for those, front court guys that typically come off the bench, but so much usage, so much playmaking available for the other starters that I'll get to a lot more Denver.
Anything else for Denver?
Nope.
Stop me if you've heard this before, but for Minnesota, we don't know the status of Patrick Beverley and D'Angelo Russell. As of right now, I'm putting them both in. I don't really know if I should be doing that or not, but that's really all that we can do. They're both questionable. Do you like anything for the Minnesota Timberwolves today?
Not in the context of like getting a lot of them. I like Towns. I like Edwards. I like Russell, but
I like Vanderbilt
Towns,
probably more than anybody else.
What'd you say?
I might like Vanderbilt the most.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they're all fine. Like, I think Towns looks the best on Minnesota, but it's the same problem. I mean, like, I think I would get to Vooch before Towns. I think that I'm getting to those other cheaper centers before Towns. So there's nothing that really stands out.
Yeah, it's all just casual. Like you'll play a little bit of Towns, you'll play a little bit of Edwards. If Russell is in, you play some of him. You play a little bit of Vanderbilt. Let's say that we go back to the normal over the past couple of days and we get no Beverly, no Russell. Is Jalen Noel the guy that you're looking for?
3,800, yeah. I mean, he'll go out there and shoot. The minutes are still, can be hit or miss, but he's basically a point per minute guy at 3,800.
Is there anybody else you get to? Does Taurean Prince become a thing if they happen to still be out?
He gets the minutes, I think, but I don't think it's likely he ends up looking like a particularly appealing DFS option.
Okay. Yeah, we've got 10% ownership coming into Jared Vanderbilt on FanDuel. No one else is in double digits. And for right now, I don't really think that anybody should. So I don't have anything else for Minnesota. I thought they'd look more interesting. Doesn't appear that they do. Golden State Warriors on a back-to-back and probably a lot different than what we were expecting yesterday. So no Klay Thompson for sure. Clearly no Draymond, no Iguodala, no Wiseman. Otto Porter is questionable. I'm going to assume that Otto Porter is playing, and that's why he sat out the front end of the back-to-back. I don't think Nemanja Bjelica is going to play. We don't know his status, but he missed with back issues for the past 2 games too. Seems weird that they'd bring him in the middle of a back-to-back. We did not get Jonathan Kuminga yesterday in the starting lineup. He barely played. We did get Moses Moody. I have no idea who's actually going to start today. It wouldn't surprise me at all if it now became Kuminga instead of Moody. All bets are off here. But the one thing that we do know is there's a lot here to like for Golden State. Curry's 20 to 30% owned. Looney is 15 to 25% owned, depending on the site. Otto Porter, Gary Payton, both pulling about 10% ownership. And then to me, the best guy on Golden State tonight, 5,300 on FanDuel, 5,500 on DraftKings. I would like to get some Jordan Poole.
Yeah, I think Poole looks fine at 5,500. Should play good minutes with Klay out. Last night you got 26 minutes from him with Klay in. I think that it's pretty likely he's in the starting lineup, gives you 30 or so tonight. Makes him look pretty good. Should be a fast-paced game between these two as well. Wiggins looks a little bit better without Klay. He's been playing well recently anyway, but taking Klay out makes him look even better. Curry always, looks at least somewhat good, but the salary dropped to 10-2 on DraftKings, so it looks even better.
Yeah, 9,300 still on FanDuel for Curry. I got Poole in for 30 minutes. That seems to be about what he sees when Klay and Draymond aren't playing. I think that stands out most, gets a bit of a usage bump too. What else do you want to do here with Golden State? I assume you're interested in whoever the 5th starter happens to be today.
Yeah.
Whether
I'm
that's
expecting it to be Poole.
Really?
Yeah.
If Porter's back?
Klay's out.
Right. So you think Poole steps into that starting lineup in this case?
Has he not been?
I have no idea.
I thought he had.
Off the top of my head. I think it's bounced back and forth. Let me look. Will you get to that faster than me?
Probably not.
I mean, I think it could be him too. I don't think it would be surprising if they went to Moody again. I don't think it would be surprising at all if they went to Kuminga.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they went to Moody based on Kerr's comments after yesterday.
Yeah, like Moody took the spot of Porter yesterday.
Poole started last time Thompson was out.
Okay. Both games too. Okay. Yeah. So even still, works for me. I think Poole's playing about 30 minutes one way or the other today. Could play more if he's starting for sure. Do you get to anything from the bench if it is Curry, Wiggins, Poole, Looney, Porter?
I don't think so. Like, I think there's just enough other options on this slate. Yeah, I don't really think so.
Yeah, like if Bielitz is out, I still don't know if Juan Toscano-Anderson can get enough minutes to matter because he's center only. If he had the power forward eligibility, I think that we can turn that into a talking point. Becomes a little bit more difficult there just because of the center only eligibility. It's another day where we're going to be able to roster some Steph Curry. It feels different.
Yeah.
Hell of a day yesterday. Kevin Porter Jr., who I needed to play well yesterday, just talked all the shit in the world to Steph, and he decided to just go nuts late and went for 40. Did you see any of that?
What?
Apparently Kevin Porter Jr. was just talking like immense shit to Steph for the entire game.
And I saw tweets about it. I didn't see the game.
Yeah, Steph just carved him up in the fourth, as he should. All right, San Antonio on the opposite side. These guys are back to full strength now. So even Keita Bates-Diop is back. DeJounte Murray is 10 to 15% owned. Derek White's 15% owned. Keldon Johnson continues to not play well and still not get any ownership. Those are the three guys that I like the most here. I'm happy to get to some Jakob Poeltl as well, but he's expensive on FanDuel. He's properly priced on DraftKings. What do you like from San Antonio?
Sorry.
Do you want me to just take over so that you can chat?
No, I wasn't in chat. I was coughing.
Okay. No, well, you're all right. I'll let you go on the coughing, but I definitely did see your 2 minutes ago, I want to never go to the gym and bang supermodels message. So forgive me.
Yeah, no, that was just, I couldn't talk when you wanted me to talk.
That's fair.
No, I mean, I think Poeltl does look the best. He's another just, mid-range center that is, has a high ceiling. He's like a 1.15 fantasy point per minute guy. Should play 32 minutes or so. Makes him look good. Murray at 10-1, I think, looks fine, not on the injury report. So no real reason to think that he's not playing tonight. Should give you 35, 36 minutes. He's about a 1.4 DraftKings point per minute guy. Obviously, the Golden State defensively is very good, but there should just be a lot of possessions in this game, which makes it look really appealing. It should also be a competitive game, which is nice. So those two stand out the most. I think Derek White, Keldon Johnson are okay, but Murray and Poeltl for me.
Okay. Yeah, those are the two guys popping for me. Although I just notoriously get to Keldon Johnson. He's another one of those guys that I always have projected better than everybody else. I don't think it's like ultra aggressive, but it's too much. I don't have anything else here for San Antonio.
No, me neither.
Alrighty. Closing it out. The Golden State not as good defensively without Draymond. Boy, is that an understatement. The Brooklyn Nets, 7-point underdogs in Phoenix, 225 total on this one. And we got to talk about Brooklyn to start. Q tag on James Harden, hand injury. No Durant, no Harris, no Aldridge, and no Millsap. I have Harden in for right now. I think he looks solid on FanDuel at shooting guard, small forward, 10-5, a little bit less solid on DraftKings. I don't really get the sense that I would want too much out of the Nets on DK. We would need to see Harden be out for that one. I don't really have much interest in Irving in general. Nick Claxton's projected for 26% ownership on FanDuel. I know that Aldridge isn't in. I have no idea how many minutes Nick Claxton's going to play today because they have 27 centers.
They do. He started last game, played 17 minutes. Aldridge was in, played 15. Sharp didn't play at all. Griffin played 15. To your point, yeah, like Claxton could certainly start and play like 28 minutes. I think it's relatively likely he plays at least like 24. But at least on DraftKings where he's center only at 4,100, that makes him look okay, but still probably not a huge priority for me.
Remember, this is a Phoenix team with Bismack Biyombo playing 28 minutes at center too, so anyone can be the center. It's Bismack Biyombo on the opposite side for the Suns for 28 minutes, so anybody can be the center during those times.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, my assumption is just that Claxton gets the bulk of the run, but you still have to deal with the opportunity cost. So it's just a situation where point per dollar wise, I think he looks good if you make that assumption, but you're still using that roster spot too.
Kessler Edwards on FanDuel at 3,900 is to me the best play in this game for Brooklyn. He is pulling 17% ownership, so it makes some sense. He's way too expensive on DraftKings to really care too much. Do you have interest in Harden and Irving if they're both in
tournaments, just because they should be relatively low owned? Like, you're still getting a massive ceiling from either one of those guys, but to prioritize them, I think you need Harden to be out.
if Harden is out, what do we do with Irving?
Swap to as much as you can.
Okay.
9,600 just still underpriced for his role if Harden is out. I think it's basically correctly priced for if Harden is in. But
Okay.
so again, if you're getting to a little bit of Irving regardless, that's fine. But the only way he becomes a priority is if Harden sits, and then I think you're just trying to late swap to as much as you can.
Are you interested at all in Patty Mills if Harden is out?
I mean, yeah, like I'll probably get to some in late swaps just because he looks better, he plays more minutes, he gets more usage. But it's not like he's at a glaring price tag. He's kind of at this point
expensive.
Yeah, like I wouldn't say he's necessarily overpriced for Harden being out, but he's not priced for Harden to be in at this point.
Right. If James Harden is out, who's the second best play for you behind Kyrie Irving?
Are we ignoring Claxton?
No, you can if you want it to be Claxton. That's
okay,
fine.
then yeah, Claxton.
Okay. I didn't know if anybody else would take a jump for you to pass anything like that.
I don't think so. I just like Claxton's still cheap enough. I mean, I just don't know what the rest of the rotation looks like because it changes like every game.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if the answer was Cam Thomas. If Harden were out.
Yeah, but I mean, he played like 18 minutes last game. And less the game before that.
It's fair.
Like Johnson's been playing mid-20s. Bruce Brown's been playing around 20. But I just don't. I mean, like I think it's Claxton, then it's Mills, then it's probably James Johnson.
Okay. Yeah, filling in those 15 minutes from Aldridge will be interesting, which I think could just as easily go directly to Day'Ron Sharpe and nothing changes. So
I think that's pretty likely.
Right. Which makes me not like Nick Claxton certainly at 26% ownership on FanDuel. Like that becomes really scary. If you see that, like, who do you expect to start? Did Claxton start the last time out?
Yeah.
Okay. Then it would be really weird if he didn't.
Yeah.
Well, oh boy. This troll that's going on right now he's deep into the game at this point. Let's close it out with Phoenix.
Yeah, he's like lost everybody's interest though.
Yeah, he went too hard in the troll. Who are the good players?
Yeah,
nobody's in for that conversation anymore. You went too hard, man. You went too hard, Steve Brinley.
Terry said by height.
We're closing it out with Phoenix. No Crowder, Ayton, Payne, Shamet, Kaminsky, or Nader. We do have JaVale back. Booker's 20% owned. Paul's close to 20% owned. Cam Johnson, 26% owned. Biyombo, 15% owned. JaVale's getting close to 15 on DK. Who are you prioritizing for Phoenix here against Brooklyn?
I mean, Johnson still looks good at 5,400. Like the price tag is slowly increasing, but should still play a lot of minutes. Chris Paul looks good at 9,700. Booker looks fine at 9,500. Obviously a little expensive. I would rather get to Curry, but you still get a nice ceiling on both of those guys. Biyombo's another playable center at 5,500. I think Cameron Johnson's the closest thing to a priority, but mixing in those other guys is pretty appealing as well.
Yeah, it's really hard to not want to get to a bunch of Phoenix, especially like if it's just the Kyrie show on the opposite side. They're playing big minutes. They should be able to carve everybody up here. Cam Johnson and Booker, to me, are the two guys that stand out the most. Although I'm happy to get to 5,800 Bridges, shooting guard, small forward, playing 38 plus minutes in this one. That one does become pretty appealing to me too.
Wait, what happened? Their last. So they played like the entire fourth quarter small in their last game too.
Yeah. Did you start adding up the minutes between Biyombo and JaVale and not be able to figure out where the rest of them went?
Well, I just pulled up the rotation. I pulled up the rotation to double check how many minutes McGee had played off the bench. And then I was trying to figure out where the rest of the minutes went. Yeah.
I was like, 36. I was like, what did Jalen Smith do? I was like, not even step foot on the floor. Cool.
Yeah.
So I guess Mikal Bridges just played a shit ton of minutes at the 5. Wouldn't be surprised to see that against Brooklyn too.
Yeah, I mean, Wainwright played 20 minutes also.
Yeah. I like Phoenix here. I mean, I think this is a really good late night hammer. I wish it didn't exist at 10 o'clock, but I think you have to have a lot of Phoenix tonight.
Yeah, I agree. It's just a pretty good spot. I do think you get closer to 48 minutes at center, though, from Biyombo and McGee here.
All right, Steve Brinley, best of luck with your unlimited mozzarella sticks or whatever other shit you get at Applebee's. Adam, anything else here? We got GPP videos, injury report videos, and then you and me on the deeper dive, right?
Yep.
There it is, everybody. Thank you for being here. NFL Strategy Show first look coming up next, taking a peek at, I don't know if it's the Pro Bowl or the Super Bowl or both, but it will be out there. Shouts to Steve Brinley. If you go to Applebee's, leave a big tip. We are out of here. We'll be back again at 5 to do it all again.